hello, good morning everybody. We'll do intros in a minute when we've got a few more people, so we're expecting quite a few people, so we'll give it 5 minutes or so and see who comes on board. If you want to say hello in the meantime, please just bob a question on, which is hello, I'm here or whatever, and then we'll crack on and we'll do the full webinar. Thank you for joining us this morning on this lovely damp morning where we are in Warrington. It's not the nicest, brightest. What happened to the summer? I've been asking that this morning, haven't we?
I left it behind me today.
Did you? Was it nice there? Yeah. Well, there you go. Maybe I need to go and chase the sun.
Yeah.
Always makes you feel better. So I hope you guys are all okay. And as I say, there's quite a few more people join now, but we'll just give it another 5 minutes or so that don't have to repeat yourself and bore you all with the same information. You don't want to do that this morning, do you? So thank you for joining us this morning, and hopefully we can have a good session and give you guys lots of advice and hints and tips to help you in your journey wherever you guys are at the minute. As I'll repeat this in a minute, but as we go through, we want this to be as interactive as possible. So you guys use the questions and talk to us and say anything that you want to. It's really useful to know how you're feeling when we're talking about things and any questions that you've got that you want to ask as well. So hello to everybody that's just joined. And as I say, we'll start as soon as we have got the majority of people that are coming on. We've got an idea of who's coming, so that should be great. So good morning, Helen. Thank you for saying hello. So welcome. Anybody else that wants to say hello, you're more than welcome. It'd be nice to know who's there. See how many people we've got on, and then we'll start going. So bear with us, because I've not done lots of these before. I've sat on the other side like you guys, but I've not sat on this side. I've done camera stuff at the BBC and I've done radio, but this feels really different. So for a really random, weird way, it feels different.
In our normal zone as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm videoed all the time, but it doesn't feel like this.
You didn't have sit close
we can't
to
see
each
you
other.
all, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kate's online. Hi Kate, how are you? Thanks for coming online, and then Leah as well, thank you as well. Hopefully we'll be able to give some really good information today. And as I said before, if you've got questions throughout it, I've got a screen to my right, so if you see me looking to my right, that's why. And that's going to, you can ask interactive questions throughout. We've got loads of questions that you guys have put to us before we started today, so we've had a look at them. And we'll base most things around that. But as I say, as we go through, please post your questions, and we'll really try and answer as many that we've got. Hello, Amanda. Hi, nice to have you on board here as well.
We've got Natalie saying that she's struggling a little bit with the audio, so will it be recorded?
I will check, Natalie, but I think we will try and record it for you. We're getting a nod from my technician, who's telling me at the back that he will be recording it, so absolutely we'll do that. And morning, Matt, and thank you very much. How many have we got now, Andy?
36.
Okay, so look, we'll just wait another 5 minutes, because we've got about another 30 people that registered, so just giving people a little bit of time, because you know it's like with technology, no matter how much we're used to it, you can be trying to get on and something goes wrong, so just give people a little bit of time. We're going to be doing a couple of polls as well, more for us, so please be interactive with that and let us know what you think about the questions that were posed. And I think the first one's going to be about if you feel that you were given or have enough support from your current or previous employer. Can everybody hear okay? Is everybody okay? Can you all hear? If you can't, put a comment or whatever, and we'll find out. Hi John, thank you very much for that good luck comment, and hope you're okay. As always, really supportive, so thank you for that, John. So we'll give it a few more minutes and then we'll introduce people. For those of you, good morning. It's been noise close to the mic, like a keyboard tapping and paper. Okay, all right, Laura, no problem. I'll sort that out. Thank you for that. Not sure what it is, but I'm sure we'll sort it. Brilliant. Okay, what time are we on now? Are we
4 minutes past.
Okay, give it another couple of minutes. So for those of you that don't know, this is Emma.
Hiya.
I'm sure you've seen Emma's posts and stuff on LinkedIn, and then for those of you as well that don't know, this is Ian.
Hello, everybody.
So they'll be helping answer some of these questions, and we'll all do what we can to help you guys in your current situations. And everyone's in a different personal situation as well. So, as I say, please comment throughout the webinar. Tell us how you're feeling, any questions that you've got, and please don't be shy with that. And no question's a silly question either. So, especially when you're going through this situation in redundancy, or being out of the job for other reasons, our lives still carry on. I had somebody recently that actually contacted me because they're moving home and they're moving from London to the northwest, and said, "Hey, can we talk about how I manage that and how I cope?" Because we were always doing it, but now it feels a bit different because of the pandemic and everything that's happening. And actually, a lot of the processes are the same. So your individual situation might be completely different. So please ask questions if there's something that you would really like to know, and we will do what we can. I think we'll just change it to record mode. Is that what we're doing here? Yes. So it will be recorded for you, Nicola. Is it Natalie? Who's asking? Natalie? Yeah. So it will be recorded for you, and it's just done that. Right. Well, let's do the start. So welcome to everybody, and welcome to you guys. I've actually been away in Whitby for the last week or so. So it's the first time I've seen these two for a while. So it's nice to see you, and Ian's been in Anglesey, so there's a bit of holidays going on. We set this up because we felt that, especially I'm talking to a lot of people at the minute, but actually not collectively. We felt it was a really good opportunity to share some of our knowledge about and help people really, and give something to you guys back really, and do what we can to assist you in your current places. So the way we're going to structure this today, I'm going to have a little bit of a chat about what I've seen in the marketplace and the kind of commentary that I've made most recently on the radio, etc. as well, and then we're going to really form it around what you guys want to talk about around your questions. Most of you probably know me, so I won't bore you with my introduction. You've probably seen me and bored of me already on LinkedIn, etc. But I set up McCarthy Recruitment. I've been in recruitment for over 20 years, and prior to that I was actually with a leader within retail, so I'm ancient. But actually, when I say 20 years, it always makes me cringe. I quite like just saying 10, but it's a bit longer than that. And I'll let these guys introduce themselves. This is Emma.
So yeah, I'm Emma, and currently work as career coach. But I have, again, like Kate, over 20 years, dare I say, experience within internal and agency recruitment as well. So I've kind of sat on both sides of the fence. Most recently, I've worked for large corporates such as Lloyds Banking Group, Co-op, Royal Mail, etc. So I've got a lot of experience within internal recruitment.
And Ian?
Hello, yeah. So I'm Ian. I'm the Managing Director of McCarthy Outplacement. I've been in the business for 15 years. So I guess recruitment experience and supporting people like yourselves through many different situations over those 15 years. And prior to that, spent, I think it's about 20 odd years, but I'll leave what's had to make it out of me for so many of them. But as a leader in retail and hospitality with various different brands. So yeah, I guess bring all that sort of experience of the marketplace to there as well, within the advice that we can give.
And actually, out of all of us, Ian's probably speaking to candidates day in and day out at the minute, and also the teams as well. So it's always good we get a kind of feeling of what's happening and how people are feeling as well. I mean, from my point of view, I've been asked a lot recently to comment on sectors. In fact, and that's one of the guys said, why don't we start and we'll talk about what we're going to talk about where the best sectors are. And if any of you heard any of my interviews on BBC recently, I've been talking a lot about the fact that I don't believe it's sector specific. Although it probably feels much more apparent that there are more issues in hospitality, retail and other sectors. As far as getting a new job's concerned, it's about the business that you go to work for and their presence in the market, their innovation and their growth strategies, and how they, for me, you should be looking at how they've navigated this pandemic. So how innovative they've been, what they've done to change it, and how they've sorted things out. I'll give you an example that we'd helped a candidate, for example, from a well-known hospitality restaurant that was actually making redundancies. They started an at-home presence, and they actually offered all those candidates that made redundant jobs in that at-home situation, managed to pull them back. which was unhelpful to us, if I'm perfectly honest, because I think we found that those candidates a job. But my point is, there are businesses out there, people say to me, hospitality, is that the right sector to go into? I should avoid that. I don't think it's a case of avoiding anything, it's a case of going for a role that you think is right for you culturally and is what you want to do in the future. But we'll come to that in a bit of detail. But I'm reticent to say to people, you know, don't apply for jobs in these sectors, because actually
there's buoyancy within every sector, and it depends on that brand and what their strategy is and how they're coping with this and what they're doing differently. There was someone you spoke to on the BBC the other day that was somebody who had an outside catering business, and they'd completely changed it around, hadn't they? And had a van with screens on, they were going up and down, they were selling street food, and she was booming. So it's about how these businesses are approaching the new world, and I guess it's about your research about how they're doing that and then going to target those businesses. There is growth everywhere, but at the same time there are businesses struggling.
And yes, we need to be honest and say there is less job creation, there are redundancies at the minute, but and people keep talking about recession at the minute, and I think that's an important thing to know. We're in an economic recession, so if you pull out a library book that explains the economics of what a recession and depression is, we fit that mould. However, the reasons for that recession are very different to how they were in the last recession, and therefore the recovery will be different, and it's unprecedented. So I've also been asked to say, you know, what's going to happen in the future, and unless somebody else out there's got a crystal ball, I don't think I have got one, and I can't necessarily predict that. What I can say to you is businesses are looking to prevent themselves from not existing. So I do think there's a glut of redundancies all in one time frame that's unusual. You know, furloughs come to an end, so it's all peaked at one point, whereas normally in a recession you'll see different sectors affected at different times, and it's more gradual. And this feels like wow, this is very overwhelming, it's all happening at one time. But you know, I do predict that it will calm down, and we do have clients that perhaps are saying to us, we don't want to recruit now, but we do have a need. But we're reticent to recruit now. We want to see what happens. People are worried. Businesses are thinking what's going to happen if there's a second spike. Let's just see how it feels September, October. And I know that doesn't help you guys right now, but I think what I'm saying is I do see green shoots and hope for the future. And I do know businesses that aren't currently recruiting that will be.
That have plans to.
Yeah, and I'm also seeing businesses that, you know, we've had a retailer recently that, for example, has expanded their call centre because they've gone more online, and they might have made redundancies in another area of the business. However, they're you know, bringing them in somewhere else. And your skill set might be something that's really needed somewhere else, and I think that's important to know. Anyway, instead of me just waffling, let's kind of look at some structure of how we're going to do this, in case we've got anybody that's joined us late. Hello to anybody that has done that. Practically, please comment and ask questions all the way through as you see me looking to the right, just to check if anyone's done that. We've got some questions that we're going to answer. We're going to do a couple of live polls. Please be interactive and let us know what you think about that. And also give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying it, or you know, things are going well for you, because you know, feedback is really important. We want this to be for you. We want you to come away from this webinar and think, you know, I really got some practical things that are really going to help me, or even just a bit of a boost of energy, and I feel better after that, and that's made me feel good. If that's the only thing we managed to do for you today, then I think we've won something. Because for me, it's really tough at the minute. You know, everyone talks about resilience, and it's really hard, you know, no matter where you are and how your business is doing, or, you know, it's been really hard, you know. And I go back to, I comment to a lot of friends, you know, I remember people said, oh, you know, what will your children think about the lockdown and, you know, all this lovely special family time? And I was thinking, my son's going to think I was doing fractions at 9 o'clock at night, and me shouting at me saying, do you not know what a common denominator is? We've all had our different stresses, and it's important to acknowledge that sometimes, sit back and go, actually, we're doing all right. So hopefully I'll get some positivity out of this as well. So, have I got everything for as far as structure is concerned?
Yes,
If
anybody is struggling with sound, just let us know. I think someone's had to dial off just because they were really struggling with the sound. So if anybody else is, just let us know.
We recorded it though, so Natalie we will pass that on to you. I think it's only Natalie, so hopefully cross fingers. Right, good for you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much. Right, so you guys, as I said, lots of questions that you sent in before the webinar, so thank you very much for that. But as we go through, and even on the topic, if you've got a question from it, please pop it on there. And equally, you can also vote on a question if you think, actually, I really want to answer that as well, and it'll pop to the top. Very posh, this new technology that I don't understand. But here we go. So one of the questions that was being asked, if I need to take a step down in seniority in order to get a job, how will this be viewed by a new employer, and how do you position this on your CV? I love this question. It's a really good question. And I think it's really important that everybody's a little bit open to new job for a while. There's two strands of thought on this, and you know, I don't think anything's right or wrong. It's what's important to you, because there are some people that actually you just need to go out and get a job and have structure, and feel that you've got a sense of purpose. And if you're offered a job that is lesser in seniority and that gives you purpose and positivity, and you feel good about yourself, and it brings an income into your family, and that's what you need, that is easily explainable in a global pandemic. And I think it's easily explainable anyway. I think as long as you can talk through your decisions logically and explain that, a good employer will understand that. And I think, personally, I think it's better to say, you know, I went out and I did something.
I think any employer or any recruiter will always know that COVID existed in this period of time. So maybe, you know, 2 years ago, if you'd had a strange, you know, progression on your CV and then a lower role, you would perhaps definitely get asked and quizzed on that. You'll still get asked, but I think it'll be completely accepted. And certainly I know that we wouldn't sort of discriminate on anyone's CV based on the future. It just is.
Ian, we were talking about this earlier. I think the issue isn't necessarily about the sort of seniority, but it's about trying to get that role in the first instance. So it's about really thinking, how are you going to sell yourself into that organisation? How are you going to convince them that this isn't a short-term gap? And I think there's something about the organisation understanding the longevity, because ultimately they're going to get somebody quite good bang for their buck effectively for now, but it's also a potential talent pool for them for the future. That's how I would be thinking about it as an employer.
Yeah, sell yourself and what you could offer them further down the line.
And I do think that's a struggle for some people, actually. Not necessarily how you explain it on your CV in the future, but actually how you would how you get that job, because one of the things that I've talked about a lot is there are employers that are worried about that because of the cost of training, because of the cost of, you know, will you stay? And that is still a question. That's definitely something you need to convince people of. And actually you need to be honest with as well. You know, I was speaking to somebody the other day that was near retirement age, so I've got 4 years left. So just be honest about that. Say, I'll be with you for 4 years. I've got a question. Be made redundant from the events, theme park industry, happy to help you with future sessions. Perfect. Thank you, James. That's absolutely brilliant. When you get to an interview, what would you put on LinkedIn that you're willing to look at less senior roles? I would, do you know, LinkedIn's a really good forum because people have said, well, how do I put it on my CV? Any good recruiter or employer will go on and look at your LinkedIn profile. So we can talk a little bit about that now, actually, as we've talked about it. So getting recommendations from people, really important. It's almost like a mini reference on there, and help each other with that. I think the LinkedIn community at the minute is amazing, actually, and people that don't know each other are really helping. You know, people are posting jobs and people are really interactive on there. That's really important. For me, you can easily put in your profile that you're open to positions, that yes, you've done X, Y, and Z, but you know, you are open to doing you know, I don't know, say if you're a senior HR manager, you're open to, you know, doing other things within the HR profession. Because actually, you know, if you're going to specialise in a certain area, you might learn a new skill as well. I mean, I was talking to a pilot the other day that's gone to be a delivery driver, and he knows that he's not going to fly a plane for 2 years. But actually, he's absolutely lucky. So I've got the best work-life balance ever. I'm seeing my family. So it is also down to you personally. But LinkedIn's got all the ability to put out whatever you want as far as that story. And for me, as long as it's authentic and genuine, and you really mean it, I think that's the most important thing. You know, yes, you can go and get a job as a stopgap. And you know, for me, it's not about the employer. This is about you guys. And if you want to do that as a stopgap, there are other options as well. You know, you can go into an interim role, you can do a contract role as well. You know, that's something we've been talking to people about as well, saying, you know, you can actually, it doesn't have to be a permanent role, and you can, if you're a senior person, go and do a contract role for a day rate, and that is an option for people as well in a more senior position. And we've actually done that with candidates that we have for us as a business, we were a perm only business, mainly permanent, and we're now doing contract recruitment because it's allowing us to place senior people for a week or 2 weeks, and at least you're getting some experience and you're getting back out to work and doing something.
Well, also that's possibly getting experiences that you didn't have on your CV beforehand, so it's actually enriching you and broadening your perspective of things that you've done and achieved. So it's not a bad thing, because you might not have had the exposure to do some of those things in your existing role. So
and I think it's about tailoring as well. So I know I've been speaking to people from a senior HR perspective, and lots of the requirements at the moment are very hands-on and kind of reactive HR activity, and a lot of the questions that are being asked is, are you prepared to get your hands dirty? And I think it's about how you you apply that, how you drive that conversation. And someone has asked about, do you call that out in your CV through a covering letter, and do you change your experience and your job titles? And I would say no, but just make sure you tailor your CV to the application that you're applying for. And I don't think it's about downplaying your seniority or the role that you've played. I think it's about positioning why you're wanting to take that role.
Yeah, and I think I just interestingly looked at that as well. Don't Charlotte, you're struggling with signal and sound. Yes, we will send the recording to you, no problem. I don't understand why there's a problem with sound, but sorry guys, we will sort it out. And James said he'll help us with that as well, so that's cool. I think I'll try and talk louder if that helps. I'm good at shouting. I think it's really important that you're genuine on your CV, and for me that's really critical. However, we talk about covering letter, but for me it's about going directly to employers as well. And when you apply for a job, for me, looking for a job is a full-time job in itself. You should apply structure to it. And we get a lot of people that have literally just, almost ping happy, as I call it. They've applied for 15 jobs for the same CV with the same thing, and they've literally just lots of applications, and it's volume. And it's important to apply for lots of roles, but I think it's important to look and say, what are they looking for? Let's read the job advert. Let's read the job descriptions and put one on there. What of my experience matches that? And exactly what Emma said, tailor your CV. But also, there's nothing wrong with sending a direct message on LinkedIn or finding the email out of that business. It's really easy to do that. Often the end is exactly the same, and the way they structure it is the same. So it's not rocket science to work out an email address. And be different. Send a direct email and say, look, here's my CV. I've noticed that you look for something that's really hands-on. I've got that experience, and actually that's the bit I loved about my career, and I would really love to do that again. Please consider me. You'll be getting really value for money. I'm really interested. I love your organisation, and these are the reasons why. So it's very specific, and you look like you want to work for them. You've read the job advert, and that makes a really big difference.
There's a big crowd out there, and you've got to stand out from it. So anything that you can do that will help you to do that and position yourself ahead of other people is really required. And actually, that piece about, we talked about 2 questions ago, about you might be overqualified for it. The fact that you've shown some real interest in that business, done some research, made some direct contact, those things will set you apart from the 100 or 50, 200 other people who are also overqualified probably for that role that have applied. You're different.
And Ian, you were telling me earlier that when you were looking for a job a number of years ago, that you went into the organisation and kind of made a connection there. So I don't know if you want to sort of share that.
It was I'm off my own back, made contact, went and saw somebody else who was in the same position I was applying for in a different branch, and spent a couple of hours with them, just got to know the ins and outs of the business. And that was for me to help me at the time decide whether it was the right business to apply for. But then when I had the interview, they were saying, what do you know about the business? And I was able to talk about all that experience and things I've done. And they said, did we set that up for you? I said, no, I just did it off my own back. And I could see the nods of approval around the room. And it's making yourself different. It really is just making yourself different.
And there's no reason why you can't. I think video is really, people don't like being video, don't like watching yourself on a video. And to be fair, I don't. So for all of you that sat watching this thinking, Kate, you're on video on LinkedIn all the time. By the way, I hate doing it. I do one take. I don't care whether I've not washed my hair, I've not got makeup on, because often I don't wear a lot of makeup. I've made a real effort this morning. Andy will say to me, our marketing guy, Kat, I need to do a video on such and such. I'm like, oh, right, okay. And I don't watch it back. I don't ever look at it. I just send it off and do it. And it is more authentic for me as well. And I'm not saying you necessarily do that if you apply for a job. I'd suggest you do make a bit of an effort with your appearance. But I think what I'm saying is don't watch it back, don't be overcritical of yourself. You never like your own voice, you never like what you look like. But you know, do a video and send that to the HR director or the recruitment manager. Make yourself, you know, connect with them on LinkedIn. And actually promote yourself, you're marketing yourself, you're selling yourself, and that is, and I absolutely recognise that that's really hard to do, and especially if you're being made redundant when you feel really low. And I'm saying to you, I want you to go and sell yourself and be really positive about yourself when you're actually feeling at your worst, it is confident, not valued, a bit worthless. All these feelings can happen, and by the way, they're all natural and normal, and if it makes you feel any better, loads of people are feeling like that at the minute. But to go and get yourself a role, you have to be proactive and take the knocks as well, and don't take them personally, because that rejection and that feeling like, oh, they've only got that CV and I've been pinned to reject straight away, is not actually about you. It's the market, it might not match you, somebody else has applied that's different. Please try not to take things personally. That for me is probably the biggest piece of advice I give anybody when I'm talking to them. You know, it's not about you. Easy said than done, I know that, for those of you that are thinking out there.
And I do think there's an opportunity at the moment for really stepping out of your comfort zone, and there's some quite a lot of evidence that stepping out of your comfort zone, particularly when your mindset is not in a great place, is actually quite rejuvenating. So I think sometimes if you're able to step out of your comfort zone and then give yourself a bit of a pat on the back and say, God, you know, I've never done a video before, I hated doing it, but actually I'm really proud that I've done that. It gives you that little bit of a boost. You know, there's loads of things that I've done recently in terms of setting up my own businesses over the last few years, where I've had to really step out of my comfort zone, and at the time it's absolutely excruciatingly horrible, but when you've done it, you feel really, really proud, and actually gives you a boost, and then the next time you do it, it's a bit easier, and the next time you do it, it's a bit easier still. So I think now is that opportunity to really get out there, and I think people are more open to it as well at the moment, because I think there's a lot of people doing things that are not normal.
There's a lot more kindness out there.
Yeah.
I certainly feel that on LinkedIn, although maybe not to recruiters, I have to say, which is a bit of a bugbear, but I want to talk about that now.
Just on LinkedIn, we've talked a lot about LinkedIn then, I'll use that through the last few answers.
There's another question about that one.
Oh, is there?
Should I have put that I've been made redundant on my LinkedIn profile?
I don't see.
There's a little green.
There's a little green now. What's it called?
It's the hashtag open to work.
Open to work. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason for that. But I think you said earlier about being authentic and honest on your LinkedIn profile. You're not hiding anything, are you? You're going to find it out.
So you can put a video on your LinkedIn profile as well. If I'm honest with you, I'm not sure about the hashtag open to work, because
I know people are really mixed about it.
I am mixed. I think do it if you want to. I think you'll be found on LinkedIn if somebody's looking for you anyway.
It's about being proactive, right?
But
just, that's not going to bring you the job, is it? So.
No, it's not, and I don't think it will make much of a difference, to be perfectly honest.
Just a couple of real quick fire tips on LinkedIn. We've talked a lot about it. So if you follow brands on LinkedIn, then all of a sudden in your LinkedIn feed, you'll start to see information that's being posted by those brands. When you start to see that information that's being posted by that brand, that gives you a feel and a sense of the culture and the way that business talks and the words that they use. Then follow that. So if you follow that brand, then start to comment and like on that brand. And then if there are people from that brand who have then made a comment on it, then that gives you the opportunity to then see that person and link to them. So we've talked a lot about speak to people in brands. How do I do that? Well, that's exactly how you do it. Follow the brand, look at the commentary that's on there, follow those people on LinkedIn, those people that are from that brand that's commenting, and then that starts that potential conversation for you. That will take some time. Kate said earlier, it's like a full-time job, looking for a job, but it's that stuff rather than ping, send the same CV to 50 applications a day, because that's just going to frustrate you.
Yeah, and I think it's, and people, and there's another question about using recruitment agencies as opposed to going to directly to employers. For me, there's a mixture of that. You know, I know there's certainly one client that we work with that you're better off coming through us than going to them directly, because they just don't have the time or the ability to go through, and they also know that we will send the people that are absolutely right. But then and I'm really honest, but I hold my hand up to, we're in an industry that not everybody is, but I would say to people, just go directly to that business, you're better off doing that. For me, it's a mixture of that. and look after yourself, and build good relationships with good people in our industry. And that network that you've got is really important. I forget people that I've worked with years ago or that I've come across, because that's just the way of the world. But when you get onto LinkedIn, you'll start to see people and build new networks. You know, there's so many things that you can do, webinars, etc. But building that network for the companies that you've looked at, and go outside the sector. People say, how do I get a job outside of the sector? And it's actually by being interested in different sectors, being open to those sectors and looking at your transferable skills. So if you've worked in retail or hospitality, the one thing I would say is that we work out of retail and hospitality now sectors. Our business is kind of multi-sector. We're in agriculture and manufacturing. I will say this to you: if you're in retail or hospitality, you go out of those sectors into other sectors, they are blown away by your experience and knowledge, because other sectors, I think, are, and then please don't quote me on this, but are slightly behind on the commerciality and how far ahead we are on, and I say we because I'm an ex-retailer, leadership and service.
Yeah.
You're off the scale and you will blow them away. And don't be scared to go outside the sector. I mean, we recently placed, I say recently, about a year ago, placed a retail director in as a CEO, MD, into a construction and waste business. And they are flying. They didn't know anything about waste and construction. They didn't need to. They knew about leadership, service, and commercial approach, and also how to kind of build a business to sell. Really interesting change. And yes, we kind of bridge that gap of, you know, think outside the box as an employer. I think employers are open to that more so now than they've ever been.
Okay, it's just a question, because you mentioned about standing out. So Kate's asked, would you put a video of yourself on your profile, and kind of, you know, what would you say in it?
I absolutely would, Kate. You know, and for me, what I say is, you know, hi, I want everybody to visualise who I am, and bring my CV to life. Let me tell you a little bit about me, and just list kind of your key skills and some of your achievements and what you're passionate about and what you're looking for. And thank you for watching. You know, if you're an employer, I would love to talk to you. Because, you know, how you come across, and some people hate it. It's like there's a question also on here about if I'm asked to do a video interview, a video on Zoom, how do I do it? You're just yourself, and be yourself, be passionate, come across as who you would be at an interview, and you know, let your personality out, because, and I think it's important as well that when you're looking for a job, that you go for a job that you fit that culture and you're happy in that role. Because as much as many of you sat in there upset and unhappy that you've been made redundant, and worse so when you really loved your job, I get that. There's nothing worse than being in a job in an environment that you really don't enjoy. And don't forget that. This is an opportunity for you to sit down and reflect and think about what you want from your life. And actually, Helen's asked a question about and I'm sorry because we interrupted you before, we'll come back to you, but about part-time work and full-time work. I'm incredibly passionate about this, and actually whenever I talk to a client that I'm working with, for me it's the right person, and if somebody wants part-time work, actually that can enhance your structure and give so many other opportunities. Helen and I openly know that not every employer is like this, but the one positive, and I hate the words about the new normal, it's actually a real passion of mine. I really struggle with that. I quite like the old normal, maybe I'm just a bit stuck in my ways. But the one positive that's come out of this, I was doing some work with a company regarding their diversity strategy and their openness to difference, and they were quite a traditional business, and I was talking about flexible working, and this has really shown that you can do that you can be a mum and work part-time and structure that. And actually, to be fair, as an employer, I've got at least 5 or 6 people that work part-time around there. And actually, that's men and women, because I'm also passionate about the fact that it's not just women that want part-time work. We all have families and we've all got different situations. So Helen, you said, how do you position that? Do you know what, Helen? Just be open about that's what you want, because it might fit in with them. Because actually, if you have, I was talking to an employee recently about if you've got, say, a job share and they cross over on a Wednesday and you're only given budget for a full timer, you've actually got an extra day there. And people might be more open to that. You also get double skill, more experience. Job share's harder because you need to recruit 2 people, or often it comes from being internally. Helen, there are jobs out there that people will consider part-time. I mean, certainly one business that we're recruiting for, we've changed their advertising to say we are open to flexible working, please apply. And actually, as an employer, sometimes it's hard to find part-time people because you don't look, you think you can't
So
find
not
it.
the skill set and what you're looking for
Yeah.
a particular role.
I've definitely seen more job adverts out there offering flexible working in terms of location and hours as well. I think it's becoming much more prevalent actually in the marketplace at the moment. So I would say, keep going out and reaching out, and like we were saying earlier, connect with those people on LinkedIn and present the opportunity to them, because they might not have ever even thought about it. So, present your skills, tell them what you can do, what you can deliver, because actually, if you're brilliant at what you do, you might be able to deliver the same amount in a part-time, so it's about really selling that, I think.
And I agree with that. And actually, at the minute where companies are concerned about money, a part-time option, it can be a really good option, because you may well still need that skill but can't afford a full-time equivalent for it. So don't see it as a negative, Helen. Go out and sell what you can do. And certainly there might also be paying a supplier to do that, for example, marketing and digital branding, and you might be able to say, look, you're probably cheaper as a part-time person. So it's about selling what you can do and what you can bring to the business, and thinking about that. But you'll be surprised.
Going back to your point earlier, Kate, about thinking around, what you want from the future, and if it's about spending more time with your toddler, and Helen, what is it that you want, and what can you afford to earn? So what is it that you need in order to be able to meet your current commitments, and then think about that, because it's not always about, like we were talking earlier, going at the same level of seniority. It's about making it flex for your lifestyle. And I think if COVID's done anything for us, it's given us all the opportunity to just stop and think and reflect about what it is we want. So this may be an opportunity, a time to kind of reassess that as well. So
I think it will be for businesses as well,
yeah.
because whilst they might decide that a part-time person fits better, as Kate said before. So the world is changing. It really is, every facet of it. So don't be afraid to put out there what it is that you want and what you can bring.
And actually, if it's advertised and it doesn't say full-time, or if it does say full-time, but you want part-time, don't be frightened to contact that person and say, look, I fit absolutely profile, but I can only do these hours, you'd be interested. You might get them to think. You might get somebody go, do you know what, could we do that? And you might be surprised. You might get a no, but you know what, if you don't ask, you don't get. And I firmly believe that. And that's why you need to be able to cope with that rejection, because the more you put yourself out there, it's a bit like me. I'm actually really comfortable on the BBC, and I'll get really nervous before I do anything. The more you put out there, I think the higher you go, the harder the fall is, isn't it? But actually, you've got to do that. You've got to, again, put yourself out of the comfort zone to do that. 2 seconds, there's a question. John, if you're trying to take the open to work off, but you can't find a way of doing it without limiting who can see you. I don't know the answer to that, John. Let me look into that. I'll ask our LinkedIn contact, because they may well.
I think it's only people who have a LinkedIn recruiter license
that can see with open to work. I don't know, because the hashtag open to work green thing is a little bit different. Yeah. So,
I'm sure there is a way, but I just can't kind of.
Yeah, I don't know whether they've done that and then put an algorithm that means more people can see those people. And I don't know, John, but we'll come back to. In fact, we'll come back to everybody. We'll put it on an email.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Sarah's asked, if a job is full time, do you position that you want full time before you go for the job on LinkedIn? I don't think you need to do that as full time. I think the way the world is very much that there's a presumption that it's full time if it doesn't state, if it's not. So it will be. But it's more if you want flexible working or part time. And people worry about that. I'm often asked a question: do I say it up front? Do I wait till I've got in front of them? If I'm honest with you, if you absolutely know you can't do that role full time, it's advertising full time, I wouldn't do that. I would approach them and say, look, I can't do that, but I'm really open to do this, and I absolutely match your skill set, etc., etc. Let's come to. I'm conscious of time. I thought an hour might be long, but it's actually not at all. So somebody's asked, I'm feeling really upset about the news that I've received. I was 5 days short of 2 years continuous service. and I feel like I've not got a voice and it's really affecting me. Well, first of all, I'm really sorry that you feel like that. We are not kind of legal specialists, but I'm an employer. I would not treat anybody that I made redundant differently from a length of service point of view. Yes, you're not entitled to the redundancy pay with less than 2 years, and I understand that unless you've got direct discrimination, you wouldn't be able to necessarily go to an employment tribunal with less than 2 years.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a voice,
No.
And that you shouldn't still have the meetings that you would normally have and be treated fairly. So if somebody's not done that, I am actually really sorry. I know that feels tough. What I would say to you is, and this is going to be really hard, and this is a bit of a tough love chat, okay? And I don't know your name, I'm not going to say it. What I would do is try and park it, because they're the past. You're not going to get anywhere with that. It's just going to make you feel worse, because you're not going to get the answers. It's not going to feel great. No matter what they say to you, you may have been treated unfairly. They might have treated you differently to somebody else. What I would say to you is look to your future. Really focus on what you can give and what you can bring. And if you don't park that and almost visually park it, like I'm taking away that negativity, I'm not going to allow you to affect my future because you've affected my past. And do you know what, I've done this when I split up from a boyfriend a long time ago. I've been married a while now, but you know, actually try and take that negativity away and move it, because that will affect how you come across at a job interview, how you attack everything in your future, and it will really affect how long it takes you to move on. If they've treated you badly like that, I'm really sorry. That is just not how you should do things. However, don't let them affect you moving forward. Yeah. A couple more questions come in. I think people are unemployed, are almost too scared to ask employees questions during interviews. It's drummed into so much to sell yourself to prospective employers, encourage not to discuss your personal life and flexible working and what you need, and ask them about benefits. If it's good for you. Do you know, Michelle, you're absolutely right. What I would say is, though, I think most people now understand an interview is both ways. If anything, when I'm interviewing, I really dislike it when people say they've got no questions for me. In fact, my team know if they've recommended somebody and it's got to me, and they've not asked me a question, that I'm switched off at that point. Because actually, I want to know that they're passionate about the business. You have to think about that question, though, Michelle. If you can find out the kind of nuts and bolts of the role, like benefits and holidays, etc., outside of the interview, so if there's a recruitment person or the person that's actually organising the interview within an employer, so it's a recruitment department or a recruiter, I think that's the place for that as opposed to an interview, if I'm honest, because it feels a bit transactional questions as opposed to value-led questions. For me, if you really want to know if they're a good employer, the kind of question I would ask would be really open questions like, can you talk to me about why you believe, and make it personal as well, why you believe it's a great place to work here, and get them talking about their experience, because actually that builds connection as well and rapport in an interview, as well as kind of you understanding about that business a little bit more. So I think that rather than transactional, what are the benefits, etc. And actually, most businesses, you will not be talking to the person that's interviewing who's arranged it. So it's the person that's arranging it, the recruiting, whether it's a really good person to ask questions like, you know, would they be open to flexible working? Would they be open to part-time?
Do they already do that?
Do they do that? Is that something that they would consider? That's the person to talk to about those questions, Michelle, as opposed to an interview. Because the interviewer is looking for somebody that, and like it or not, they're thinking, oh, is this person, gosh, and are they going to cause me a problem? Are they just looking for what's in it for them? I'm not suggesting that's right. You know, you're coming to interview me, I'm totally open to any questions, and I want to really know about you and what's important to you. But you are right. About personal life, etc. I think if they want to know that, they'll talk to you about that and be a little bit led by them. I don't necessarily think that's first interview. I think that can often be second interview, and once they've got to know you and a little bit more. But utilise the recruitment department, utilise the person that's not the hiring manager to help you with some of those decisions, and they're the people that you can be asking kind of the more sensitive questions that you feel awkward, because you know it might be that you can do full time, but you'd be looking for your preference to be flexible working.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say to the hiring manager, and certainly not at the moment. That's my gut feeling with that. I hope that answers the question. Kate, you said with regard to location flexibility, are you best to be totally clear on location constraints you have, or wait? For me, I would be clear about that. Thanks, Michelle, no problem. I would be clear about that, Kate, because actually you're just wasting everybody's time if you go for an interview and they can't be flexible on that location.
And also if you're a great candidate but that location's not right at the moment, the fact you've been open to have a conversation, another opportunity in that same employer might come up further down the line, or that employer might actually say, well, actually, I know we do have a vacancy somewhere there that's coming up. So you've started dialogue, and by starting that sort of honest and open dialogue, that's probably going to.
And I know what you mean, Kate, because there's a little bit about, let me just get in front of them and show how good they are. Yeah. But actually, if they've got a location restraint, they're just going to be frustrated with that. Yeah. I would be frustrated with that because I'd be thinking, well, we kind of knew where the location was, advertised that. Yeah. But again, that's a question you can ask either a recruiter or directly to the recruitment department. Say, look, you know, I know your head office is based in here. But can I do 2 days from head office? Can I do 3 days remote? I do think that's a question you can ask. Yeah. Apply and then contact them directly and say, look, I've applied and I'd just like to ask this question.
And so probably about in the year leading up to COVID, flexible working from home was really beginning to, it was certainly the question on a lot of candidates' lips. Is this possible? Can I do this? And now that COVID's here, it's just on the agenda. And we've got clients that will not be back in their offices before February, March next year. They are 100% working from home.
And we've just had a question actually about shielding. So, I'm very private about it. I find it quite hard to speak to the fact that I need to shield. And again, I think it's just about trying to be transparent with that and talking to people. I know it's hard, and you know, it's for whatever reason, if you're feeling uncomfortable about that, I think it's really important you don't let that impact your ability to move forward and speak to organisations as well.
And I get that's really hard, Nicola. I think that is really difficult. But you know what? If I thought I needed a skill set and you were brilliant at that, and you needed to shield and you could do that job from home, I would be totally open to that. And I absolutely know a lot of clients it would be as well.
We've still got clients that are video interviewing, and I've got one of my clients who highest volume. She's currently pregnant, so she's shielded. She's continued to do all of her videos, her interviews via video. So people.
No, I don't think it's not something you should be ashamed about. It's who you are. And actually, do you know what? The other thing is, if that's an employer that's not open and able to talk, then are they the right for you anyway? And you know, and there's a little bit about that for me. You know, depends on where you are and the kind of person you are. Some people will be bothered by that, but that's really important. I'm really conscious of time. This has gone so fast. I really enjoyed it, by the way. I hope you guys have as well. Kerry's asked if I set up a company to keep my options open. Totally get that. And you need to promote it, but you're still looking for a permanent contract roles. How do I position it? Just be really honest, Kerry, and say, I'm being innovative and entrepreneurial in this really difficult time. I'm still really would like a permanent role, but in the meantime, whilst I'm looking, I've also set this up. I'm open to contract work, and here's my company, and I'm doing this because actually I think, God, that person's got something really about them. You know, they're really looking, And do you know what? Last week, and I don't know if anyone heard me on Radio 5, and it was really interesting. And there was two people talking, and actually one of them was a street food person, another person was talking about, you know, they owned a hospitality business, and when it happened, they spent a month in bed, and they found it really, really difficult. And their business, and they were having to sell their house because and then you've got this other chap come on, exactly the same business, and all the different things he'd done to drive it and make it happen. I felt really sorry for this person because they're obviously really suffering from depression and really, really struggling. But actually you could just see the difference, and this person's business was booming and this person was really struggling. My absolute advice is that get yourself some mindfulness, and Emma's all about that. You can see all her posts on. Really, really try and dig deep. And you know what, one of the things that we talked about on a recent video was spend time with positive people. Spend time with those people that are going to boost you up and say, you know, you can do this. You know, you're capable of this, and you've got something in you. Because I'm telling you, everyone that is on here, even if I don't know, you have got something in you that can do it. And I've had to say that to myself in the mirror before and say, you know, Kate, come on, you know, and this wasn't your plan, because it wasn't my plan, you know, this hit me sideways as much as anybody else. But, you know, we can do this and we can do something different, and we can put ourselves out of our comfort zone. It's really important, so don't worry.
This is something that is very close to my heart, because I have my entrepreneurial side, but I do still contract. And so if you want to have a conversation, I am more than happy to have a chat with you about this, because it's something I'm very passionate about. And it is a very fine balance, I think, between trying to promote your business and then employers thinking, well, are you committed?
I know, and Emma talked to me about that recently. I was like, how do we do this?
So I'm more than happy to have a chat.
Easy.
It is a real challenge, but like Kate says, I think the right people will see the entrepreneurial side of you and that ambition and that drive. The people that don't see that are probably not the right people for you to work with.
And actually, I've got a friend, and I say friend, but it's just a candidate I've placed. Every candidate that I've placed, I think, has become a friend or a client. And she'd been made redundant, and we placed her a while ago. She stayed there, she made redundant from there, she got another job, she made redundant at the beginning of COVID. I was frustrated because I couldn't put her on furlough, but anyway, and not everyone operates the way we do. And she said, what do I do? And she was actually in design, she did all the windows. And she's a brilliant artist. And I said, you know, you've done all these kind of like pictures and they're absolutely brilliant. Why don't you set up a business up doing that? And she actually is now flying, doing that business. So I was like, I'm really proud of that. And she's like, Kate, and I bought a couple of things off her. She's absolutely brilliant. But, you know, she's got her own design now and it's on Facebook. And actually, I don't think she'll go back into a full-time job. She's absolutely loving it and she's earning more money. So you never know. You do it, you might find that you love that more. Beverly, you've asked a question which is important, and I've just been shown 10 minutes left, which I can't quite believe. So I'm going to talk fast now because I've got about 5 questions left that have been asked before. If you mentioned transferable skills into other industries, which typical industries? I don't think there are typical industries. Like, I've worked in the environment and waste. I did a project for Veolia about 10 years ago, and it was full of retailers. Interesting, a lot of retailers then go into trade and construction. I know a lot of people in a retailer recently went to Taylor Wimpey and in that environment. So I would say really remain open, call centre environment. We have got, and I say we because as I say, I'm always a retailer at heart, so many skills to offer us. But sit down and say, what are your things that you enjoy doing that you're really great at? And then be open to adverts out there. I mean, interestingly, we were recruiting for a role recently, and the girl said, I would never have applied, I would never have looked for that role title. But actually, when I saw the job advert and how descriptive it was, I thought, I match all of that. She's got no experience in that. And we were like, yeah, you do. And actually, the person took them on because it was really transferable. So for me, it's about not being blinkered. It's about being really wide open on keyword searches, etc.
Yeah, I was going to say, also, think about the searching that you're doing. So if there's specific transferable skills that are quite niche or unique, put them into the LinkedIn search and press the content box, because what it'll do is it'll bring anything up with those words in the content, and that's quite a good way to filter out businesses that are talking about those particular skill sets as well. So that's really quite a sort of clever way to try and find some transferable skill matches.
And there's a question from Catherine, and I love you the way you say your name, Catherine. It's the same as mine. I'm actually Catherine with an R and a Y as well. So there you go. You've been there a long time. You're at risk of redundancy, but you still would quite like to leave. My first question is: are they offering your ability to put your hand up and say, actually, you can make me redundant? Because there might be other people in your pool that really want to stay when you want to leave. Yeah. They lose their job, and then you stay, and then you leave. Probably feels a bit not right. So are they open to voluntary? Bit difficult. You might have to have a kind of offline conversation, and what's it looking like, because you'll be probably more expensive to make redundant. But I personally, if you were going to leave anyway and you're kind of thinking, I want a fresh start, there's nothing wrong with a fresh start just because it's a global pandemic, by the way. I know lots of people that have done that, and actually, when we're recruiting for a job, we're looking for people that are on the market, that have been made redundant, but also people in permanent jobs, because for us, when our client asks us for a good person, we look for the best on the market. And that's a fact, and actually that might be somebody that's currently in a job. I know on LinkedIn I would get shouted at for that, because lots of people say you need to look for the people that have been made redundant, but actually as an employer, we're paid to find the best person for the job, so that's what we do. So Catherine, absolutely. Right, so it's rather than pulled, right. Do you know, Catherine, if you want to leave anywhere, I'd stick your hand up and get some money for leaving, so it bridges your gap if you want to, and then go and find a job that you really love and want to do. Don't be frightened to do that.
It buys you that time to have the full-time
Yeah,
job.
so
and finding
I
the
would
right
do
next
that.
job.
I would absolutely do that, or wait and then look for a job. So don't leave yourself with a gap, because I wouldn't want you to do that and financially have a problem because you don't know how long it will take you. Because finding a job takes longer than you'd think sometimes. You know, even if we get a job, placing that job can take 3 months. So what I would say is that coming out of August, going to September and October, that is traditionally peak for us anyway. So, and then it calms down at Christmas and it peaks again at January. So make this time count for your preparation, for your CV, for your connections, because you will see things change in September and October as well. And it will happen like that anyway.
And the last few weeks, I mean, yeah, there's still lots more people being made redundant, we understand that. But we have seen some real green shoots of recovery, and people that have been made redundant within 4 or 5 weeks have found a new role, and because they're redundant, they're able to start fairly quickly. So we have seen some of that. So it's we know that's not everywhere, but those signs are beginning to show. So
and Usher, I totally get your point. And we said be careful taking voluntary redundancy because you can't claim benefit. I think for me, I'm talking specifically about Catherine because she's been there for a very, very long time. So redundancy payout would be a really good chunk of money. But it's a really good point. So thank you for that. For me, it's more about if you can make sure you get that redundancy that's right for you. I've got 5 minutes remaining. I'm going to just quickly go and you talk.
There was a question that came to an email. There's a question that came to an email about interview technique and interview practice, and there's loads of stuff available. We looked earlier on, didn't we?
Yeah.
With the way you're feeling at the moment, when you go to an interview with all the best preparation, you're probably still potentially not going to be feeling in the best place at the moment. We're going to send out a link afterwards to a 4-minute video on YouTube about body language interview, and it just, I'll guarantee you that could be the difference between you watching something like getting the job. It's a 4-minute watch. It's so simple, but honestly, there's some so easy techniques in there. I used to have a little book in exactly the same techniques I gave to various people, and I lost it because someone never gave me about years ago. I'll remember who it was one day, and I'll track them down. But look at that body language email, this link we send out later, because it'll be a massive help to you.
And then the other thing I was going to say to you is this, there's a thing about here about, you know, are there genuine positions out there? Yes, there are. Are there as many? No, they're not. But yes, there are positions out there. And we're advertising positions that are right for everybody, because there's a lot of people on here that I would absolutely find a job for straight away because we know you as well. But I think that's important. How would you phrase leaving that part in a settlement agreement rather than redundancy? For me, with a settlement agreement, you don't need to say anything. And do you know what, Karen? You know, you can just say, look, the position came to an end. The global pandemic, we agreed a settlement. You don't need to give the details, because actually there's a lot of people doing settlement rather than redundancy anyway. It's kind of, you know,
and it's just going to be accepted by
people
because of
thing. It's actually a perfect time for
the
that,
environment.
is what I would say. Just before we end, we did ask for a poll, and I don't know the results, and we'll find out. And this is not about selling anything to anybody, but we tried to do something so that we could offer something back more genuinely. We set up an e-learning platform with lots of advice on it, and with some career coaching. And at cost, we worked out that I think there's 2 different packages, but the lowest one was £250. And we asked, would you guys be interested? Would you think people would be interested? Is that a good price point? And we lovely feedback on that. I don't know whether you've done the poll or not, but we wanted something to kind of really understand whether people would be interested in that. We understand that people haven't got a lot of money at the minute, that might seem a lot, but we want to be able to give something back that we make no profit on, but it allows us to kind of give one-to-one support with people that are struggling. And we've written a load of information, and especially when employers aren't supporting you through outplacement, and we wanted to try and do something. So, and this isn't about promoting it, and I felt really uncomfortable saying it on LinkedIn, and I've not said it on the BBC deliberately, even when lots of other people have been promoting things, because I don't want to be seen as selling anything, but I wanted to let people know that it is available as well, as an option, as a way of getting some real kind of one-to-one advice. For me, the last final question I want to answer is, what can people do to survive after being made redundant in this difficult times? Cope with rejection and don't take it personally. Manage your mindset, surround yourself with positive people. Give yourself a structure to your day. So wake up in the morning, know that I'm going to look for jobs between 9 and 11, I'm going to have a break, I'm going to have my lunch. So you have structure, so you feel like you have purpose. And use LinkedIn as a massive social media ability to get yourself out there. And make connections, contact people directly, be entrepreneurial, and don't be frightened to sell yourself. Don't be scared of approaching people, because the only thing they can say is no, we're not looking for anything at the time. I got I got somebody approached me the other day for a recruitment job. I'm getting it all of the time. I absolutely think that's brilliant. Contact me, talk to me. I'm an employee that wants to talk to you directly, and I've got somebody sat upstairs that we took on only a few weeks ago that did exactly that same thing. Don't be frightened to contact people directly. Use your network, use people around you, and there's a lot more kindness in this world, and we're talking about there's not many things about so we've definitely got that.
As well.
Yeah.
You know, the days that you do have a really good day, give yourself a pat on the back and give yourself a bit of a break. I think we're not kind enough to ourselves a lot of the time, and we always look at the negative of things that are not going well, as opposed to those little wins. And it can be just, you know, sitting and sending 10 emails that you've been meaning to send out, or doing a video, small things, but just.
And you're not on your own. You're absolutely not on your own. It can feel like that on certain days, especially as we're not all going out and doing lots of things, and you know, everyone's at home working's great, but actually it feels, you know, you're missing, especially if you're an extrovert, you're missing being around people, and you're only around your family. It can be quite overwhelming, especially with kids. So yeah, be kind to yourself. And I really appreciate everyone coming on this webinar, and I really hope you've got something out of it. I really enjoyed talking to you, and actually the more I've got into it, I feel like I can see you all. Thanks, Helen, no problem.
The thing I would say is, if you did send questions in that we haven't been able to answer, we will send you a written response as well.
Well, we're also going to try and do another one, because I think we've got loads of questions not even come to. Yeah. So maybe in a couple of weeks, when we're all next back together. But if you would like that and you think it'd be useful, maybe specifically on interview technique, which I think is something that is a really big topic. That, you know, but let us know things that you'd be really interested in, and thank you very much, and thank you for everyone saying thank you. Lovely to meet everybody. Take care. Bye everybody.
Good luck.